Hey everybody out there, this is Seto, and today for you guys I'm just doing a video response to what GlasgowYGO did on his channel talking about competitive YouTubers in the community. And he did a video about this about a week and a half ago, and I wanted to do a video, but I've been so busy over the past week I wasn't able to sit down and do a video till right now. So yes, this hopefully should be going up this coming week and everybody gets to see it then. But in his video, from what I recall, I did watch it about 2 or 3 days ago. Again, I watched it twice actually. He was pretty much talking about how there's no real competitive YouTube channels and how it's really hard for competitive channels to thrive in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, because I think he phrased it as the Yu-Gi-Oh community is the most of the players in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. I know John Moore from House of Champions has stated this before, but he pretty much was talking about how there's a small percentage of very top tier competitive players. There's a lot of percentage of players that are in that middle ground of casual competitive. There's just players, they are semi-competitive, and then you have your casuals at the bottom. It's not a totem pole, but like a graph or whatever way you want to describe it. So besides, competitive channels, there's a very small percentage of people like that, but there's a lot of everybody else that's semi-competitive casuals, etc., etc., etc. Me, if you're asking me what category I've always concluded myself in, is somewhere between casual and competitive. I feel like I can float in between worlds like this. Ooh, because literally I've played both sides of the game of Yu-Gi-Oh for years. As I've gotten older, I've become a little more casual, but I still like having a competitive edge by playing the best. I play a couple of the best decks every format. Like I'll be playing DDDs this upcoming format. I've played Blue Eyes in competitive formats. I've taken them to the locals and the regionals, and I try to do my best. I try to put the best deck together as possible for that format. But I also at the same time like enjoying Yu-Gi-Oh for fun. Building fun decks just for fun. That's fine. So I'm kind of in that category in the middle. So saying that, my thoughts on competitive channels on the game in Yu-Gi-Oh. I've always thought that, and I'll say this, and I'm not trying to point fingers or discount everybody, because I love the Yu-Gi-Oh community as a whole, so please understand that. But for me, from a player that loves just trying to improve himself as a player, I've always tried to make videos on how one can improve themselves as a player. I know Team Innovation, he does this as well. He, helps players try to become more competitive, but at the same time be just better players overall. I know John Moore, he does a lot of regionals and YCS deck profiles, so there's a lot of things out there for the majority of things, from me being in this community for 3-4 years as a YouTuber now. Oh my gosh, 2013, 14, 15, 16. Woo! I've been in this community too long as a YouTuber. But sorry, I just had like a epiphany. But literally what I'm trying to say is, there's a lot of people that talk about the meta and Yu-Gi-Oh texts, how to beat the meta, how to do this against the meta, do that against the meta. There are very few channels that I've seen that teach you just how to be a fundamentally better player. The little things that nobody talks about. Playing with, like what I did on my channel like a week ago, I talked about how playing with an open hand can help you become a better player. I've talked about deck building, the basics of deck building, the basics of plussing, the basics of what to do when you go into time. Just like basic fundamentals if you want to be a good, well-rounded Yu-Gi-Oh player, because my philosophy has always been this. Yu-Gi-Oh formats come and go all the time. But being a well-rounded good player, a player that strives to improve himself as a player, will last longer in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh and overall in the long run be a better player. So you can be good in, I've seen this happen so many times with Yu-Gi-Oh players, but some Yu-Gi-Oh players, they'll be really good in one format but not good in another format. But if you try to strive yourself to be a well-rounded player, that's overall a good accomplishment. And there's not that many channels out there I've seen like that. Team Innovation is one of them. I know Simo, he's been doing a thing he's doing on the side, you know, teaching the basic mechanics of the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But there's very few people that talk about just the little things in Yu-Gi-Oh! That add up. How to become a better player, how to do deck testing, the things that everybody seems to know but nobody talks about, you know. Oh gosh, what are some of them? You know, like what type of ratios to run in a deck? You know, how to build a deck, constructively. How to play test properly. How to build a play testing group. You know, all these things, which I think are fundamental to make a better player, nobody talks about. Everybody's always about the meta, the meta, the meta, the meta, the here and now, the here and now, which is fine, and I understand that, but I always try to make players or help players on my channel become just better players overall in a well-rounded sense. Instead of just be like, okay, this is the meta, this is what you need to do, this is how you win. Because, yeah, that's very basic, but how do you, when it comes to crunch time, and if you want to really do good at an event, you need to be just a well-rounded good player overall. You know, why do you see players continually top? Because they're well-rounded good players that can adapt. You know, why does, you know, Billy Break keep topping? Well, because Billy can adapt format from format from format. He's always trying new things out. He's always like playtesting. He's always just enjoying the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, look at Billy. He's a cool guy. I love him. Never met him, but I would love to meet Billy Break. It would be kind of like meeting Seto Kaiba himself, I guess, in a way. Kind of like Seto. I won't say Yugi Seto because you know I'm Seto. Another thing altogether there. But literally that is what I'm saying. I feel that the community as a whole is always about the meta and not so much about becoming a better player. And I see a lot of that out there. But people say, well, I do competitive talk, or I do competitive talk, and all they do is deck profile, deck profile, deck profile of the meta decks. What I want to see is stuff like what I kind of do, which I've tried to do and I've had success in, is like try to become a better player overall and explaining decks and how they work. Why do you think I spend 20 minutes sometimes on deck profiles that I do? It's not because I want to, it's because I'm doing it for the people out there who are trying to learn the deck, trying to improve the deck, trying to learn to play the deck properly, trying to learn what other techs they can try out. I'm talking about different techs, I'm talking about different ways you can play the deck, etc, etc, etc. That's what I'm all about, trying to make the community have better players in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because the more better players we have, the longer they'll probably stay in the game, the longer they'll probably play, the longer this community will last, and the more, you know, people can play Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, I don't have the ability that much anymore to go play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I used to. I don't have the time. It's not so much a money thing, it's a time thing. Spending out my time. I have a fiance, a girlfriend I'm probably gonna get engaged to by the end of this year. You know, I got a lot of things going on in my life, so I don't have time to, you know, practice 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week like I used to do back in the day. I don't have a test group like I used to. I don't have that ability anymore. To some degree. Probably if I really wanted to, I could do it, but I just don't feel the need to do it because I'm happy where I'm at. But saying all that, I think the reason why there's not a lot of competitive channels out there is, number one, there is a small percentage, maybe 8% of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community is super competitive players that, you know, go to every YCS. For that reason, you know, that's not a large audience. It's not going to be open there. But I think there's a wide audience because me meeting players out there and getting emails and messages from people out there, they really just want to become better players. You know, be it the meta, be it just as a player in general. I think those are two things that go side by side. You know, the meta is one thing, but being a better player overall is a completely different animal to some extent. And nobody really does that. Like I said, Team Innovation does it. John Moore does more on the meta. And I do hear him talk sometimes, and he is talking about how to just become a better player overall, which is something I'm very grateful that we have in the community now, like somebody with that edge, you know, and perspective, I guess you could say. But there is definitely a market out there, I would say. People would say, no, it's not, you know, people like Asian Eyes and memes. I think because we have players out there. I mean, we see pack openings do the biggest thing. I love watching pack openings when it's older stuff. But I think because people see people, oh my gosh, I repeated myself like 3 times there, but whatever. But when we see people that just, you know, it's all about dank memes and, you know, yada, 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 you know, people think, oh, well, if I want to be, you know, successful in YouTubing, well, that's what I have to do, instead of just trying to do what they think in their bones is the best way to approach it, the best thing to do, what they can, you know, gear their audience to. Because I can't tell you how many times I've got messages on Facebook, comments in my videos that I've done like on these things where they're like, thank you so much, Seto, for helping me improve as a player. Thank you for putting this deck up. I've tried it out and I've done better at locals. Just basic things, you know, I'm getting these messages from. So I know there's an audience out there. And I've always tried to, that was one of the foundation pillars of my channel, to help grow better Yu-Gi-Oh players overall and make them more rounded, make them better players. You know, when they're in a time of crisis, learning how to plus properly, learning how to get the most advantage out of all your cards, you know, deck building, things of that nature, the fundamentals that made me a good player when I was in my prime, I guess you could say, but also, you know, just what I've seen successful in other players. Using military strategy, military techniques as well was something I've always tried to implement into the, you know, into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh as a fundamental, which I've always found success in, using things like reading books like The Art of War, which I love military history, but it really helped me as a player. The 5 Rings, things of that nature, applying strategy to the game of Yu-Gi-Oh. When people said there's no strategy, well, yeah, it is if you actually put your brain into it and actually think and don't listen to what everybody else says around you. So those are just my thoughts. I think there's a market out there for, you know, players that just want to get better. But I think the market for just, you know, all the meta, competitive meta, top tier meta, the next tech, yes, there's a market out there for that, but I wonder how big that market is, I guess you could say. But that's just my thoughts. But yeah, tell me what you guys think. Do you think there's a market out there for competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Tubing, I guess you could say? Is that something you think somebody should definitely step up and do? But those are just my thoughts, guys. Until next time, take care, have fun dueling, good luck dueling, and always strive to be a better Yu-Gi-Oh player. Always strive to improve yourself a little each day, I guess you could say. Or at least every week. Every week try to improve yourself a little bit. But till next time, guys, I'm Seto Kaba, and I'll see you guys next time. Good luck dueling to all of you. Take care, everybody.